Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin has slammed the West, saying the days of a unipolar world led by the United States were over. In a speech full of grievances at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, Putin said what he called the West's economic blitzkrieg of sanctions had failed. He also played down Ukraine's possible EU entry, saying he had nothing against it, unlike the security risk of Kyiv joining NATO that he alleged when he started the invasion. Putin accused the US of acting as a colonial force and said tectonic changes in the global order would see states like Russia come to the fore.
The era of a unipolar world order is over, despite all the attempts to preserve it by any means. These changes are a natural process, because it's difficult to combine the civilizational variety of the planet and the wealth of cultures with political, economic and other clichés. The clichés don't work here, the clichés that bluntly, without any alternatives, are being imposed from one centre.
Let's bring in DW Russia analyst Konstantin Eggert, who joins us from the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius. Konstantin, good to see you. So, a determined Russian President Vladimir Putin speaking there. Did he remain optimistic and defiant throughout?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that what the main, at least my main takeaway from this speech, very long speech, by the way, is that Putin really believes that economic sanctions imposed by the West on Russia will not work because others will come to bail it out. I think that he is convinced that A, his financial team is good enough to stave off financial catastrophe, and B, that there's going to be enough investors, let's say, from Asia that will come and bail out Russian economy. And by the way, speaking about the speech, if I may, it was very interesting how he repeatedly used this kind of traditional left-wing post-colonial discourse from Western academia to woo the audience, where there were a lot of people from China, India, basically from Asia and Africa, trying to basically please them with this kind of anti-Western pitch.
Konstantin, we'll speak in a moment. The international community has condemned Russia's invasion of Ukraine time and time again. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said on Friday that it's absolutely necessary for leaders to speak directly with the Russian president to end the war. So let's take a listen what Chancellor Scholz had to say.
It is absolutely necessary to speak to Putin, and I will continue to do so, as the French president will also. And there are some countries needed and some leaders needed that speak to him, and it is necessary that they are clear. Because when I speak to Putin, I say, for instance, the same things I said to you. Please understand that there will be no dictate peace. And if you really believe that you will rob some land and then hope that the times will change and all the things will become normal again, this is a mistake.
Right, so Chancellor Scholz believes that dialogue is essential with President Putin, but is there actually any indication that he's open to listening or compromising with the West, Konstantin?
Well, over nearly 4 months now, there is no sign that Putin actually shifted in his position. Actually, I think that he uses these phone calls with President Macron and Chancellor Scholz to tell the Russian public, look, we are still respected. We're doing everything right. Might is right, especially, I think, in Russia. This particular message sounds quite powerful. And dialogue is important, no doubt about that. The issue is basically what is the dialogue about? And I think that this is something that so far has been missing from this discourse of the necessity of dialogue with Putin, because Putin seems to use it just for propaganda purposes.
DW Russia analyst Konstantin Eggert, thank you.
Thank you.
For an analysis of Putin's remarks, let's bring in Timothy Ash, emerging market strategist at Blue Bay Asset Management. Thanks for joining us. Now, Putin said today that Russia's financial systems and markets have stabilized and that a crisis has failed to materialize. Would you say this is accurate?
Well, they crashed initially, huge drops in equity and bond prices. Well, actually, bond prices have stayed very low. They were about 130 cents for the Russian long bond, and they trade about 20 cents now. So that's not true. The ruble has stabilized, but it's a pretty artificial exchange rate at the moment because it's a very illiquid market. Imports have collapsed, and obviously energy prices are higher, so that's helping them. But sanctions are not meant to, it's very difficult to stop the Russian economy straight away. Sanctions will have an impact over the very long term. Undoubtedly, they make the outlook for the Russian economy pretty bleak, low growth, low investment, difficult to access financing, and stagnation, I think, is going to be the story for Russia over the next decade.
Right. I mean, Putin made it seem like everything is quite fine in Russia right now, but he also alluded to the fact that regular Russians might have to cope with some challenges. What do you think he could be anticipating there? And do you think the Russian people are ready to deal with that?
Well, he's right. I mean, being isolated from international markets and the international economy. Remember, there's a lot of focus on the energy embargo and whether or not Europe will impose a full energy embargo this year. But whatever happens, whether the timing of that embargo, what is pretty clear is Russia is now deemed to be an unreliable energy partner, and Europe will absolutely diversify away from Russia over the medium to long term. And that will cut, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of revenues for Russia over the long term. So Russians are going to be a lot poorer. Maybe they haven't realized that yet. Their ability to travel has been significantly restricted. Jobs are going to be lost. As I said, growth is going to be pretty mediocre. Capital will leave the country, and I think there'll be a big brain drain out of Russia over the medium to longer term as well.
Timothy Ash, thank you for putting that in context.
My pleasure.